Hello, everybody. My name is Colton Curry, and welcome to the Nonprofit Podcast. With this series that we're doing, Ukraine, Nonprofits Under Fire. I'm here this week with my wonderful co-host, David Higgins. He is the author of Demystifying Fundraising Funnels and the founder of the Nonprofit Online. And usually we would have, beside me, my wife, Sandra, but just this past week, she gave birth. So she's going to take a breather this week, and I'm sure she'll be back for the next episode of the podcast. But, this week we had a wonderful opportunity to talk with the founder of Joshua House Life Centers, Jim McCann. How are you doing today, David?
I am doing well. Well, in the last 48 hours, our family didn't have a baby, but yours has. Are you getting any sleep?
Not at all, but it's okay.
I do know because of something you said to me, you are no longer in Lviv, which thank God that's the case, because Lviv was hit yet again last night with other multiple rockets, some just a few blocks from where you were staying.
Yeah, so just hours after we left Lviv last night, 5 rockets hit Lviv, 7 people were killed and 11 people were injured. And it was, it's great that we got out the time that we did, but it's it's a bittersweet revelation to see that there are people that have been so affected by these rockets. Even though we got out, it's an awful situation, really.
There is being so much happening on the eastern side of Ukraine as Russia has been really trying to dig in and really get ready to hold that territory. And now they're talking about not just pushing forward from those areas, but as well as pushing into a neighboring country in the last 48 hours that is really chief on the area of nonprofit support and nonprofit care for refugees from Ukraine. Can you tell us a little bit about the country we're talking about that is next door to you there in Ukraine?
Yeah, so we're talking about Moldova, and Moldova has really been a hub for so many nonprofits to go in and just help with displaced families and refugees, because Moldova has taken on the most refugees per capita, of all of Europe. And while they are the smallest and one of the most impoverished countries in Europe, so it's been really inspiring to see that happen. It's been really inspiring to see how many people they've taken on. And, I've spoken to a few nonprofits about this that are stationed in Moldova. And it's, really inspiring to them as well to see these people that don't have a lot giving their all to the people that have just lost their homes.
That's beautiful. The Moldovan people are democratic people, much like here in the United States, as in Ukraine and other areas in Europe. There are people that get to have freedom of speech, freedom of worship. They are a free people. And they have given all they can out of their freedom, what they want to do. But because of that, they're considered an ally, and they're not part of the European Union, and so they're not getting
Hmm.
the resources from the European Union. So they have become a real strong magnet of support from the nonprofit world, which has been
Hmm.
absolutely beautiful to see, as we have seen many of our top 50 very involved in supporting Moldova in their big heart to care for. But because of this, Russia is starting to saber rattle, saying, okay, we're going to take Moldova now before we're finished taking Ukraine. So then Ukraine's entire western border, all the way up to Romania and Poland, will be the only 2 borders left that do not have Russian troops on them. And it's scary to see. And my heart goes out to those people, and certainly something to be continually vigilant of as we see what's happening in the news. What do you know is happening in eastern Ukraine as we're looking at the final vestiges of the battle in Mariupol?
Yeah. So what's going on in Mariupol right now is, some of the same troops that were in Mariupol from the beginning are still there. They are surrounded. There's little to no support from the outside, but the Prime Minister of Ukraine has said that they will continue to fight on until, it's over, because they can't afford to quit fighting. There's really not much anyone can do, and so if they give up, it's you know.
It's so true. There is two reasons for that. The first one is they know how they will most likely be treated once they surrender by Russian troops. There is not much chance of them ever seeing Ukraine again if they surrender. They will be put in prisoner of war camps, like many that have surrendered, be moved into the Siberia area until the end of their days, and put into labor camps. The other one is there's a good chance that they won't even make it out of the country because of how many war atrocities are happening by the Russians against Ukrainian soldiers that have been run out of ammunition and ran out of food and have decided to put up their the white flag. So one of the other things that is the reason why they continue to fight is the fact that as long as they are fighting, it gives Kiev and the surrounding area that just came out of a horrible battle that they won. If you look at the devastation, it doesn't look like they won, but they are now free of occupying forces to support and get ready for the next wave of assault from Russia to that area. And so they are buying time, much like the Alamo in Texas did when they were fighting for the independence in the state of Texas. And my heart goes out to
Mhm.
those individuals that are there.
Yeah, it's definitely been it's a heartbreaking situation there, and we just are hoping that anyone can get anything there, or we can see some sort of victory, which is funny to say whenever you see that there's really no winning in any of this, because there's just so much loss on every side.
It is. Well, thank you so much for your ability to be able to be here today in this conversation, Colton. I really appreciate it, knowing how much is going on around you and that you just was able to pull out of leave and being a new father. Right now, we're going to move into a conversation I had with Jim just earlier today, bringing an update with what's happening with Joshua House. And Jim McCann, who's the founder and director of Joshua House Life Centers, in their efforts in Ukraine, is right there in Ukraine, where that's home for him with all of
Mm.
the now adult children and younger children that they are raising up. And enjoy this conversation with Jim McCann. I have a great opportunity to do an update with what's happening at Joshua House in Lviv, Ukraine, and getting a chance to talk to the founder and director there, Jim McCann, who many of you already know, and from episode 1 of this season, Ukraine Nonprofits Under Fire. Jim, it's so good to be talking to you again in person.
You too, David. Glad to see you.
You have been so busy. There's so much going on. How do you find time in the day?
That's a good question. We've been getting a lot of people reaching out to us, trying to find out what's going on, up to date, et cetera. And then finally somebody says, look, I know it's really late where you are. Don't you sleep? And you really, during this time, you don't sleep like you would normally if you're in the States. There's sirens going off. There's last night we had last night early this morning, like 5 to 7 rockets go off here, not far from our house. So when you're in that kind of atmosphere, you just always feel activated.
Yeah, I heard on the news this morning that a rocket landed actually in Lviv, not far from where you're at, and there are several civilian casualties. Is that true?
Yes, there was about 7 people killed, about 11 people wounded. One of them was a child.
Hmm.
Like residential area,
Yeah.
senseless. Just, and it wasn't one rocket or missile; it was several. I mean, and there.
I hear constant stories of the East and the last 600 defenders there in Mariupol and these type of things. It's heartbreaking. And as you're living in that right now, where you're at, how are the people handling the constant negative news coming from the East? It seems like a surmountable wave.
Yes, and if you just sit still and you think about that all the time, that's what it's going to feel insurmountable in your own spirit. You have to live with hope. So one of the things that the Ukrainian people have been doing a lot of is active resistance. Everybody is finding their position. Yesterday, I was in a church service, and the preachers were the drivers that are going into the east, where bombs are falling, and they're delivering humanitarian aid and getting things all the way as far as Mariupol, where this city is surrounded, and that's like suicide territory. But they're getting things through. So people, they're finding their position, trying to be active, and acting as one nation for victory. They're not sitting here thinking, hey, we're just going to lose this war in our country.
I know that Ukraine as a country is a very religious country. People can decide whether it's Christian religious or religion with a fan of Christianity, but inside of the Christian population or leadership there is the Russian Orthodox Church. And I was reading an article where the leaders of the Ukrainian Russian Orthodox Church are having to leave because they're feeling abandoned by Moscow, because Moscow is giving two thumbs up to the war, the leadership in the church there.
Yeah.
Have you got a chance to interact at all with the Orthodox side of the Christian faith there, and how are they handling such a almost like a betrayal of an allowing of the murdering of the congregation?
Yeah, we haven't interacted with them that much during this time. Over the years, we have, because of the work that we do. We work with children, we work with the poor and the needy. And so we've been asked by different folks over the years if we can reach out to their people, to their congregations. It's again what I was talking about concerning response. Even though they can feel abandoned, everybody is realizing what we're involved in is a just cause. And I think that's one key phrase that if we keep that up before our face, in America, Americans, you grow up and you're for the underdog, or you grow up and you're for the guy that just seems to almost make it and doesn't make it. And so right now, Ukraine has been definitely the underdog in all of this. But all the priests, all the people, everyone actually has, it's not hype. They're united as one in this fight. The people that are here, if you're staying in Ukraine, you're staying because you're fighting in some way, one way or another. You are engaged in this fight. And so are they. They don't have time to be thinking about being betrayed. They have time to say, okay, what's our position? Let's do it.
I have a lot of people asking me about the foundation or the where Joshua House started from. In fact, this last week I had a couple calls that came in and saying, David, we know you're really behind what's happening at Joshua House. Where did they start? How long have they been in country? Can you give me just a brief origin story of where Joshua House started?
Sure. We've been here 29 years. It's 1993. It was at the end of communism. And we basically my wife and I were talking about this last night. We came in the nation at a time when this nation was destroyed. They had taken all the people's money. Everyone was broke. End of communism. This is what you get as a result. They empty your bank accounts. The buildings were falling apart. There was literally no color in the nation, not green, not blue, just dirt, gray, black, and 2 or 3 television stations that were all communist oriented. So we saw a nation be transformed from that time to this time. And where the name Joshua House came from, was right when we came, we had our first child, and his name was Joshua. His name represents a new generation. But at that time, the medical service was very poor, and they made a mistake, and they didn't tell us. I guess they felt ashamed of what happened, and he ended up dying. And God put it in our hearts to name the work that we are doing after our son, Joshua House. And so, because he represented a new generation, God had literally pointed our hearts towards orphans and told us, I know you're hurting, but so are they. And they have no one. And if you'll be a mom and dad to them, I'll heal them and I'll make them whole. But what he was asking from us was, I want a full life commitment. We sent you over here for a 1-year commitment, but I want the whole deal. And so now it's 29 years later. Many children have been raised, and these children have helped us to literally minister to thousands of other children in similar situations. So that's where it began, and that's why we have the name Joshua House.
It's beautiful what you've done. I know I first met you in around 2000, 2001. I think was around the time I first met you and fell in love with what you're doing. And had been a raving fan for a long time. And I got a chance to go and visit you, see what you're doing, hug the kids, do music lessons there on 2 different occasions. And I know some of the music teachers that we have introduced over the years have come back as well on their own accord just to be there and help with you. When you look at where you're at now and you're saying, okay, David, we've done all this up to this point, is there a sense that everything you've done has been built for this moment of crisis? Or do you feel like everything could unravel in this moment of crisis for Joshua House?
That's the fight. I think you hit it right on the nail right on the head. That's the fight. And that's why I said you have to hold out hope before you, because when we came, the nation had been destroyed. So from that time that we came till right before the war, this nation, once the word of God came into the nation physically was transformed. I mean, new buildings, banks, stores, businesses, color, channels on the on television. Finally, you get internet. You know, McDonald's comes in. All of these different things that you would never see in this nation, and then all of a sudden, it's being bombed on day and night, and whole cities are being destroyed. And now it's 50-something days, and a lot of infrastructure and what has been built has been destroyed. And so what you have to hold out in front of your face is, okay, things look really bad right now. If I just look at the circumstances, it'd be a good time to pack up and say, well, we did what we could. The odds are overwhelming. Let's go. And, maybe a lot of people have done that. But there's the majority of the people that are staying and saying, okay, so we've seen the rebirth of our nation once. Now we're going to see it again. And somehow, some way, people are calling on God and they're asking God, would you intervene? Would you help us and rebirth this nation again? Sorry, we just had the lights go out. Sometimes that's because of a blast somewhere in the city.
You know, I was imagining as it was shimmering there, like it looked like what you see in the movies. You know, bomb goes off and everything shakes and all the lights flicker, and I was like, oh boy. So, you didn't even flinch though, so I'm feeling safe. I want to just talk quickly about Joshua House, what you're doing right now. Last week, we saw some pictures of one of the young men that helped lead in your organization, taking a van load of food to some of these areas that have just been liberated by the Ukrainian military. and are now safe to travel in for the most part because they removed so many of the mines and booby traps in those areas. Uh, this last few weeks, can you give us an update of some of the activities that you are doing and what you feel like you're accomplishing right now in this time of, well, war?
So there's a couple of things. One is, we're continuing to reach out. We have IDPs, internally displaced people, living in all of our centers. So we are feeding, clothing, taking care of needs, including medical needs. We have one lady that her whole um, family came into one of our centers, and we're taking care of all of them. It's another children's home basically, and they had to flee from the east, so we started taking care of them. But the other thing that we're doing is we're keeping our eyes on, okay, yes, we need to take care of the internally displaced, but we also need to plan for, there are some big battles ahead, and they're saying they're going to be the mother of all battles. And so we are building, we are doing construction and repairing one of our centers right in the middle of the city so that it can house and shelter many more people. And we're going to put in a commercial kitchen. And we're in the process of talking with another organization that does medical work to see if they can partner with us in this center. So we have our eyes on two things. One is current events. How do you meet the immediate need? The other one is long term. You have to see the evil ahead and go around it, so to speak. And the evil ahead is, look, there's going to be some big battles, and like it or not, they're on the horizon, and they're starting already. So that's going to mean a huge influx of people, and people that are wounded, people that are newly displaced, shell shocked children. So we're trying to get this center ready right where I'm sitting right now in the city that was uh, just bombed today. In the middle of that, we're doing construction work. And that's what I'm saying about hope. In the middle of that, you go, all right, yes, this doesn't look like life as usual. It's not life in a normal person's, universe. But for us, we're having to say, yeah, there is a war going on. But as long as we keep our hands to the plow, as long as we keep out there and we hold out hope for people, they're going to believe that there is a future. There is something for them to look forward to. And so that's why we're building. And people can see us from the streets. You see people walking by the center and they see all this stuff coming out from the inside of the house because we're throwing it out and we're putting new stuff in there. So they're watching it and looking, and you can see they're like kind of scratching their heads going, wow, those guys are building right now.
I love it. Building in a war zone because you're building for the future and you knowing you needed to take care of more children. So you're making room for more children.
That's right.
That's a stance of faith that I think is very exciting.
Yeah.
I love that. As you look at your homes that you right now are filling and soon beyond capacity throughout this entire crisis, what are the needs that you say, David, if these are the things that people can help us with, we're needing as soon as possible? I know it's hard to transport things to you right now, but you know that better than I do, what can actually get in country or what you need to buy in country. Can you kind of give me an update of maybe your top 10 things or your top 5 things that's saying, David, if people can help us with this, this is what we need?
The first thing always is prayer, because if people pray, God does miraculous things that the human hands are not able to even come close to. So if people will pray, God will give us fresh courage to stand. Because if everybody exits the country, there's not going to be anything left to defend. And that literally means Putin's going to go into Europe.
What are some of the other resources that we would be able to support you with?
Okay. If there are people that have connections with humanitarian aid organizations and they're in Europe, Norway, for instance, sends a lot of humanitarian aid, or US aid. You know, the United States has approved large packages of humanitarian aid. But the problem is, who are the people that are controlling those resources? And if there's connections with people that know them and they can connect them with us, we are an NGO, registered NGO here in Ukraine. Plus, we have our organizations registered in America, and they're 501c3 organizations, so they're tax deductible. People can get us in touch with them. We can get food, we can get bedding, we can get sheets, we can get pillows. And the other thing is finances. Because of transportation and because now they're making part of their strategy attacking infrastructure. I mean, railroad lines where you would normally get things in because you can't get them in by flight. You can't fly them in anymore. We need finances. We have ways to get that in, and then we would buy the food and buy the items we need ourselves. And we would be able to get things done a lot quicker in that way. So those are some of the needs. We are, like I said, we're also building. If there happens to be any bold construction workers that want to say, you know what, I just want to trust God at a higher level at some time in my life, you can come and help us to get this center where it should be during a time of war. And I would encourage people, if their faith is there, they'll walk away with a testimony that'll inspire others.
Can you get building materials right now in a country at war?
Yes, we
Plywood, sheetrock.
we have to go across the border to get a lot of things, but there's also a lot of things in country because nobody's buying them. First, all the stores were closed. And then it became like, hey, this war isn't going away. So this stuff is laying around, but people are not that inclined to build because of what's happening. And they don't know who's going to be the next president. Is Putin going to really take over, or are we still going to have a Ukraine? And those that really have this heart of hope in them are saying, no, hey, one way or another, we're going to be here and we're going to build and we're going to continue to do the right thing because God's for the right thing.
Yeah.
And
Gosh, I want to go get my tool bags and jump on the next plane. You've got me inspired.
Come on, brother.
I need my wife's permission.
Yeah.
I don't know if she's going to give it to me. She says, these don't work anymore. So I want to talk quickly about two more things before I let you go today. The first one is, can you give me an update on where things are with Samaritan's Purse? I know you guys have been in conversation. Is there any truth to the rumors that you may be working together and helping each other?
We've been in having conversation with them for the past couple of weeks. I just talked with them the other day because we brought somebody there to get some work on one of their legs that's really in bad condition. And yes, we're still continuing. They're asking us, how long will it take to get the center ready? Before they could come in and, have a place where it's clean, they have rooms, and there's enough room to house the IDPs. So we'll have people living here, the medical clinic, plus the commercial kitchen at the same time. So that's the part we're waiting on is, all right, how long is it going to take us to get this part ready that they need? But we're definitely pushing toward working with them. They are interested in it. We are too, and even their leaders. So it seems like it's, a good cooperation if we can get this building ready.
Yeah.
As long as it's being
How old is this home that we're remodeling? It's been around a while. I know I saw it 10 years ago when I was there.
yeah. How old is it? Did you
Yeah.
say? Or,
Yeah, it was pre-Soviet era, correct?
yeah. Well, yeah. It's 1904, I believe, was when this was first built. It was built by a Duchess, rich person,
Mhm.
and later, during World War II, was used as a hospital. You had former KGB families living here before we purchased the building, and then we renovated the entire building and turned it into a home for many children for many years.
Mhm.
So those, go ahead.
Well, no, that's beautiful. Taking something that originally was meant for something beautiful, then through the Soviet years degraded, and now being brought back to a place of beauty. I love that. I love that, and filling it up with the needy and the hurt and the lost, and helping them find homes is a wonderful.
That's been the pattern ever since we've been here. Um, we'll, you come into a country like this that's basically everything is destroyed. The laws are changing day by day, just right after communism. They called it Dicky Chos, meaning wild times. People were being shot on the streets. It was just chaos everywhere. The mafia ran everything, and the police were behind it. So it was like there's nobody to turn to if something goes sour. So you better really be trusting God and know that you're in the right place at the right time. But He would give us these buildings that were destroyed, like this one was. It just had gone to waste. People didn't take care of it because it's communism. They
Yep,
expect
it's a
the government.
100-year-old house.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So we get it. It's ruined. And at the same time, God is giving us children whose lives have been ruined, abuse of every kind. They don't have parents, they don't have family, relatives. And while we're rebuilding the house, He's rebuilding their lives.
Mm-hmm.
They now have parents. They now have brothers and sisters. They're now going to school. They're being taught. And so, we would always see every house that we got, we would have to restore. But then God would give us a new group of kids and we would take care of them and He would start restoring them. And their childhood memories would be totally transformed into something that was terrible to think of before. And now they have pictures of birthdays and wonderful times.
Mm.
So, right now, many of those homes, especially in the East, they've been destroyed. They've been bombed out. And those kids are fleeing. And their legal guardians that have been watching over them are fleeing. They have to have places to go to. So we're trying to set our place up and as well as help any others that we know, people that we've worked with over the years, to help them bring in more IDPs so that once more, yeah, things look bad, but if we'll trust in God, He has the power to restore. Even something that a shell-shocked kid who saw their mother assassinated before their eyes, things like that. He has the ability to redeem even that situation. And that's what we're facing. And that's what we're having to have hope for. And that's why we need people to help us financially. We have a camp also that we're going to try to build and get a kitchen going just in case we have to set up tent cities where we need to take in even more. So, we're visionaries for a time like this.
I love that. I love that. As we get ready to end this conversation, because I know you have a lot more, it's evening over there right now, morning here, but you still have a lot to do before you can go to bed. And thank you so much for spending this time with us, Jim. I really do appreciate that.
You're welcome, Dave.
I was thinking of the next steps. I am very aware that we're not talking about just this is going to be over in 6 weeks. It's not like a series on TV. This is a multi-year win the war and rebuild the nation type of thing. As people who love what you're doing and love Joshua House, listen to this. You say, David, as we get ready for the long haul, how can somebody on this end prepare themselves to be able to stand with you over the long haul? What does that look like and feel like for us on this end?
Well, one of the things is that you've helped us with is to create a new website. And they can go to that website and they can look at the podcast. They can look at the news that's coming out week after week that you've been graciously putting out and doing such a good job at. And they can sign up for our prayer letters, by email or post if they like. Plus, get the podcast, get involved, get engaged, and then start finding out, okay, what are you doing right now? What's the project for this time? And what are the ways that we can help? Because we're always putting it out there. We have people write us right after we get done putting things out on social media and are asking us, how can we help them? We're thinking, we just put it all out there. It's out there for you to see. And so on all the social platforms that you have helped us to get set up, they can go to that. They can also find the ways to give, all the different ways, and there's several ways to give, so it's convenient for them. But become partners. Start to see yourself as, hey, we're co-laborers with them. We cannot live there ourselves, but we can be partners with them for a lifetime. And we do have many lifetime partners, people that have been with us over the years simply because they know what our heart is after. And that's God's heart, to heal the brokenhearted.
That's beautiful. That's beautiful. For those that are listening to this conversation, thank you so much for taking time to hear Jim's heart and what is happening currently in Ukraine and with Joshua House. Over the next 5-6 weeks, we're going to have an effort to raise the money to completely finish remodeling this facility, as well as provide the resources, the bedding, the food, to take care of those that are going to come into this. Our goal is to raise $100,000 as quickly as possible and give them the resources that they can help as many people that are flooding from the east to leave for safety. So Jim and Sandy can not only just help them and help them heal, but help them heal with the love of Jesus Christ. Jim, thank you so much for spending this time with us.
Thank you, David. It's great seeing you, brother.
It's good seeing you as well. God bless.
God bless. We'll see you. Bye-bye.